I want to say something. I actually want to call, because we can call men out all day because we are men, and I understand that. But I'm actually going to step out of the box here, and I'm going to call some women out too, because I understand that, when it comes to the physical side of things, that, I think overall we can agree that men probably are driven by that a little more than women are. But at the same point, women have to stop selling out their bodies so quickly. Like, life to the full, man. It's been a while since you've been on an episode, dude.
It's been
three episodes?
Yeah, 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh, man.
I know.
Well, tell everybody what you were doing.
Lots of stuff. I don't know, what was I doing in particular?
There were a ton of different things. Well, for one, you took a trip somewhere. You were gone.
Yes, I was gone to Minnesota. My wife and I own a video production company, and so I was shooting a hunt with a friend up in Minnesota, and that was kind of a quick turnaround. Left Sunday night, got back Wednesday night, but not enough time for you to record and edit a podcast for Thursday at noon, and so that kind of started it off. And then I think we've just been busy with the work at the church for a couple of weeks too, that kind of caused to miss with some conferences and things like that. Fall just seems crazy.
Yeah, well, on top of that, what was it this week? You went up to Frankfurt, right? Or was it Lexington?
Yeah, we were in Frankfurt at the state capitol for a meeting there that we got the opportunity to be a part of, and then I led worship for it, which was super fun. And then left there, went to Florence for a conference for 2 days up there. And so, it's just fall seems to be that time of year, especially ministry wise, where you're trying to gear up for the next year,
right?
And then also you're getting ready for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and most churches have some sort of fall festival or something that they do, and so all that stuff just kind of compiles, especially with the church, our size, where all of the churches are kind of all on the same page. Everybody is involved with everything, at least at some level.
Right.
So.
Well, another thing too. So I messaged you earlier today, just kind of, dude, you're the hardest person to get a hold of. I was just giving you grief because I know you've been so busy, you ain't been home till late each night or whatever.
Right.
And it just got me thinking or whatever. I'm like, we're recording this episode literally at not even 24 hours before it's supposed to release.
I know.
So it's just
that seems to be the trend. And we started out with 2 or 3 episods right off the bat.
We were ahead of the game.
Yeah,
and it's just your schedule got more busy. You started recording weddings and it's just a lot of things really started popping up to where it was more convenient to, we got that one episode that we can launch this week and we'll try to record this one later, and we'd end up not doing it. But we got it out. We get it out. We make sure we get an episode out.
Well, and it gave your dad the opportunity to be a part of a couple of episodes, which was really cool.
He was excited to do that. So I know that Dad, like I said, I think he kind of saw the vision I was giving him a couple of years ago when I was like, I want to do this life to the full thing. And I think Dad was actually the one that came up with the name. But what was interesting about it was that I was just telling him, here's what I want. I want people to know, there's more to life that you can do, and I just thought that was super exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of to bring it around full circle and have him on, kind of a neat treat, and to see him talk about Kanye was absolutely awesome.
Right.
So,
well, I thought it was relevant.
Job than I.
Well, I was telling Dad the day before because that came out on Halloween, I believe.
Yeah.
And I told so the day before, I'm like, you want to record another podcast?
Right.
I was like, this will be your third one. Obviously, we did those 2, and he was like, yeah. I have plenty of stuff I can talk about, since Halloween's coming up, this and that. I was like, maybe save those. I was like, let's see what I think. I feel like it's just pressured on me here, kind of to talk about it or whatever. And it was that day where I was just like, let's talk about Kanye. I was like, why not? It's relevant. Got the message, so I basically I try to correlate things that are going on around me.
Right.
And this is why I say it's important. Comment what you want to hear about.
Right. Or
message me and tell me. It can be private chat, whatever. I don't care if you sent it through some anonymous Facebook post. Right. I don't care. I just want to know what's relevant.
Sure.
So that was one of the things, and I thought that was exciting.
Yeah.
And then this week, that's what actually... So welcome to the what I'm going to refer to as the #1 Christian podcast in helping you live life to the full. I'm just going to speak it into existence. But basically, this is episode 11 now, I believe, right?
That's a lot.
It's crazy. We're in double digits. I still remember starting this thing.
It doesn't even seem it's like right, yeah.
Well, they just keep coming one after another. I feel like I just finished editing a video by the time that we have to start one.
Yeah.
So I'm just
gosh. It's like that in the church world, too, you know, weekends.
Yeah.
They just always come. And you look up and, you've been in church for 25 years, and like, it just doesn't even make sense that's been like that long, because it just consistently week after week, It's just kind of, you keep plowing ahead, you know?
Well, just to give you an idea of what this episode's going to be about, actually, it's about soul ties. Obviously, I'll get into more detail on that.
Yep.
Maybe let you explain some things there, too. This book that you're seeing here in the middle, I know you can't see it very well, so I'm going to throw the title up there. Boom, there it is. Basically, this book is Untangled. It's by Terry Savelle Foy. Mm-hmm. I recommend... After this, if you're listening or watching this, after this, go watch her, because you sent this video to me.
Yeah.
I'll try to attach the link to that in the description. If I don't, forgive me. But just look up Terry Savelle Foy and Soul Ties. She really goes into good detail on this. She's the author of this book. And it actually helped me earlier this year in dealing with some of that. I took those notes and was able to correlate it in another more recent relationship, how to step away from those and not let it drastically affect who you are.
Right.
And Search for Significance also did that. So go back, watch that episode, because that's episode 3, I believe.
Yep.
And that was just important. These books tie together, and it's important that you read these. I'm not telling you to read a book every week, but if you get the chance, sit down, try to read a book a month or something and correlate these together. These all tie together, and that's why we cover these things.
And I think there's still a power in reading
100%.
books. I mean, it's one of those things. At that conference that we were at the last couple of days, the keynote speaker was talking, and he's like, we've kind of lost that art of reading things ourselves. And so we jump on YouTube, and just because something has 1 million views, we just think somebody is an expert on it.
Yeah.
And instead of reading books by really smart people who took the time to do research and write these things. And I totally love YouTube videos. I've learned a ton of stuff about my business
useful.
and the camera work. There's a lot of good stuff on there, but there's a lot of just dumb stuff on there too.
A lot of opinions.
Flat earthers, I'm talking to you. No, I'm kidding.
Hit them. Well, is that another conspiracy that we believe in, or what?
It's just it tends to perpetuate not only good ideas but bad ideas.
Right.
So read also.
There's always equal and opposite reactions to everything. So when you have good ideas, you're going to have some less special things that come up.
Exactly. And YouTube houses everything, right? They don't really discriminate about it. And so
they might be now, I guess. That seems to be the phase that they're headed.
That's also crazy. The whole First Amendment encroachment with social media.
Our Kanye video got flagged.
Really?
On Facebook. Literally, it was like, if I read to you, it's on my Facebook page, but basically it was literally like explicit and violent content, this and that. And I'm like, there's no foul language. I mean, nothing. Literally, we're talking about Kanye's conversion. There was nothing bad about this. Right. So I challenged it. We ended up winning that.
Sure.
But
I imagine they probably just have robots that flag that stuff that listen in for certain words, and then when you rebuttal,
I would love to know what word triggered it, though. You know what I mean?
True.
Like, if you go back and watch that video, I'm like, everybody else watch this. Tell me what you think of it. Like, because I'm like, I don't know. It just was beyond me at that point.
Yep.
But well, let's give everybody kind of a idea of what soul ties are.
Sure.
Do you have like a general description that you can think of off the top of your head?
Yeah. If I could lay just maybe a little bit of foundation here, is that biblically speaking, so just what the Bible says, we are 3-part being.
Yep.
Right. We are a spirit, body, and soul.
Yes.
Right? So we have a spirit. That's our most real part of us.
Yes.
That's the part that we as believers know that when we die, our body stays here.
Yes.
Our spirit goes to live with God. So that's kind of like the main, most real part of us. But we also live in a body, right? The Bible talks about really important to take care of our body, right? Working out, eating right, all that good stuff plays into it. And the other side being our soul, which is our mind, our will, and our emotions.
Yes.
And as we've seen, I think recently you talk about mass shootings, you talk about actors with mental breakdowns, all of that soul part, if you don't take care of that, can get squirrely.
Yes.
And so understanding that there are three parts, one of those being your soul, soul ties
are when you're in a relationship and your soul gets entangled with another person, right? Yes. And when you try to do that separation and try to remove yourself from maybe an unhealthy relationship, that there's something about that person. Maybe it was the physical side, right? Maybe you got physical early into a relationship or something like that, or maybe it was the emotional connection that you had. But something in there will continue to pull on your soul, your mind, your will, and your emotions, and pull you back into those type of relationships.
And to explain that a little deeper too, so I mean, this goes that was an excellent coverage, but basically, like, so another thing is, it's not, as you mentioned, there's that physical side, and then there's also these things like the way you choose your wording can affect how soul ties happen. So like we said before, there's power in what you say.
Right.
So when you tell somebody, I'm going to love you forever, I'll never leave you, stuff like that, you're actually cognitively retraining yourself. And that's where these soul ties come into play. So like, you'll separate from somebody, you're like, they're toxic, I don't want to be with them. And a week later you find yourself texting them like, I just miss you so much, this and that. And it's like, crap, and I mean, like, you could go, and I want people that are, if anybody like is discouraged, where they're like, I've been away from them for years. Soul ties, I mean, this is someone who is probably quite literally, in most circumstances, especially in today's culture, has a part of your spirit with you, part of that soul, like you were probably connected to them spiritually or however. Legitimately, they have taken a piece of you. So it's kind of like, the thing is you're pretty much longing to get that part of yourself back.
Wow.
But the thing is that you have to move on knowing that God is healing you, and that this is just like, it's like a mental attack. It's not something you have to follow, and it's not, definitely most of the time you're in a toxic something, it's probably not God saying this is the one.
Right.
Like, you're going through that, you'll probably experience it multiple times. You'll be like, well, I'm over this other person. So because you got over it before, you come back to this new person, now you're like, well, now this is the love of my life. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And it's like, maybe in the moment it is, but you felt the same way before, probably. Everybody had that first, middle school or whatever relationship where it practically destroyed you. The world was ending.
Your first heartbreak.
Exactly. And the thing is a lot of us, not all of us, but in today's culture, there are people who are delicate lovers, I would say, hopeless romantics, me being one of those people. And like, you'll invest yourself so much into it that your soul ties are probably a little stronger than what other people face. But the thing is knowing how to heal from those, what tactics you have to use, because you'll see a lot of people, how did they get over me so quickly, they're in the next relationship. It's like, that's not helping them, just so you know. So you're like, yeah, well, they've been in this, they're married to this person now. I can promise you 100% that there's something in them that is going to eat it. It's almost like karma, so it's like, it's going to come full circle. It's going to end up, because they didn't heal from it the way they were supposed to, end up biting them in the butt. And it's just, bouncing between things is dangerous.
And I mean, simply put, for that is, a lot of times how we end one season of our life is how we start the other one, and we tend to not address the things inside of ourselves, and we tend to repeat those things.
Exactly.
The Bible even talks about like a dog returning to his own vomit.
Exactly.
Like, that's a creepy, weird picture, but it's literally like that. And so I would say I'm a lot like you, and in my younger self, when I was dating, I just like jumped in with both feet. And I never...
Well, it's exciting. It's scary, but it's exciting.
Exactly. And you want what you're doing to be successful. And if you have a personality like mine, and very similar to what yours has, you always see the good in people too, which can lend to you only seeing the good in people and not addressing like circumstances that are very real and there. And so we almost forget how to be ourselves outside of a relationship. And that's where you'll continue to make soul ties, because that other person kind of makes you feel complete a little bit, but you don't know how to...
identity there.
And you don't know how to be a person without them. And that's valuable. When I see people now, I got married relatively young. I was 24, which is relatively young.
I'm 24 and completely single. Keep going.
There you go. Hey. But I have seen people get married at young ages and not know really who they are themselves.
Yeah.
But I've also seen people get married at older ages and not really know who they were too. So I think it's a unique journey for everybody. But I think more than anything is being secure in who you are.
Yes.
And not just jumping in full bore, full send. There's really not much in our generation, and you can probably speak to this too, of like dating's different now.
100%. 100%.
It used to be that if you dated online, you were a dork.
Yeah.
Now the only way you date is dating online.
You're going to meet people on social media apps and this and that or whatever, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And it's funny because, you know, I'm just as guilty in that, you know, being there, starting things that way. I mean, I would say 99% of my relationships that I've ever went through have been, you know, started on social media, this and that, and it's not the way that it used to be. Just like, I think that there's not a lot of manliness, I guess, or courage coming from behind a screen. You know what I mean? Like, be willing to face rejection. But that's a totally different topic, you know, relationships or whatever.
Yeah, but I think it plays into it in some level because, like you're saying, you gotta. I feel like you got to become a more complete you to help protect against some of these things that happen, because soul ties are going to be there regardless. And I would say this is that, you know, Scripture has a lot to say about your heart.
Yes.
And how easily your heart can be deceitful, how you can trick your heart, how your heart can become discouraged, how you can believe something in your heart and like be 100% behind it, but it not be right. Like, your heart can be deceitful, and even say in the Bible even says wicked sometimes. And sometimes I feel like we do that. We trust so much our heart. We don't have another standard to live by, which for us as Christians should be the Word of God, right?
Agreed.
We don't have that standard anymore. And so what we feel is what we do. And that gets us, it's like, it's romantic. It's like what it's like in the movies. But it's not realistic.
Well, another thing I want to cover, and you talk about this, so you're saying you have to identify who you are and yourself and stuff like that. You really have to be cemented in Christ. You know, and I think, you know, a lot of people will I actually know some guys that would disagree with this, but this is my personal conviction. You technically probably shouldn't be with anybody that's not has that Christian foundation without you. You know, so like, they're not coming to church because you go to church.
100%.
They, you know, a lot of what you see if you watch Jeremy Foster, you know, you watch some of like his stuff, or Mike Todd talking about how to develop relationships and to build them in the first place. It starts out as friendships, like genuine friendships. You might be attracted to somebody, that's okay, but start it out to where first you are going to learn this person inside and out from the outside. So you're not in this relationship, because people will always, and I've experienced this more than anything, the first couple weeks or whatever that there's that, you know, spark or whatever, this and that, people are going to wear a mask. And sometimes it'll last, I think they said 3 weeks to 18 months is how long that people can wear that. It's like a cupcake phase type of thing. But really it's a mask, because they're so excited. It's still new and it's still fresh, this and that. But you just need to be very cautious of it. I've rushed into far too many relationships thinking, oh, this is it. They're everything I want to be. But they were just wanting to be with me. So they were, you know, changing who they were, and it wasn't actually who they were.
And you know, if you don't want to have to prop that up your entire relationship, that should be there, like you said, regardless of whether you're there or not.
Right.
Because that's what'll happen. And one of the best marriage advice that I ever got, and it was like super simple and natural and not really hyper spiritual, was like, take their quirks that you think are cute now, and like put that like 10 years down the road when they become the most annoying parts of them. We all got quirks, right? That are annoying. Can you still live with that?
I used to laugh and find some things that, you know, girls I dated or whatever that they would do, and I was just like, that's really cute. Like, that's adorable. And then, you know, forward. We go forward, you know, like a year later, and I'm like, why are you such a child? Like, and I wouldn't say that, but in my mind, I would actually catch myself starting to get angry. Like, and not just, you know, I'm not going to express that or this and that, because that, you know, that's who they are. Everybody has their quirks, and I understand that. But I was just like, oof.
Yeah.
Like, that's actually really annoying. You probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But then again, I know how I am. So
well, exactly, we all have those things. Back to one of the things that will keep us from getting soul ties, and very unpopular opinion, and I think it's something that every young man deals with.
Yeah.
But hey, how about not getting physical right away and then trying to learn about their personality later?
Yeah.
Man, there's nothing that will wrap you up faster than the physical side of a relationship.
It's the strongest form of soul tie. The rest of it, you've spoken into existence or whatever, this and that. We get that, and it is there, and you'll miss them or whatever. But yeah, you're saying, soul ties, the strongest form is the physical side.
And so then you'll have these relationships where you hear people talk about, like, they hate their guts, but then hook up with them every other weekend. It just, that draws you back in. And the Bible has a lot to say about the importance of purity in that area of our life. And I believe as young men, I mean, I had to walk through that myself. And it's like, you have to get to this place where it is valued in your life, and then that way you do get an opportunity to know somebody, and you don't know them just by the physicality of knowing them. Their heart, and for women, I think it might be a little bit more also on the emotional side of stuff, where they can draw some emotional soul ties of having somebody there to listen and to talk to and to connect with.
I want to say something. I actually want to call, because we can call men out all day because we are men, and I understand that. But I'm actually going to step out of the box here, and I'm going to call some women out too, because I understand that, when it comes to the physical side of things, that, I think overall we can agree that men probably are driven by that a little more than women are. But at the same point, women have to stop selling out their bodies so quickly. Like, you want a certain thing and you're willing to give up something so fast that you don't even realize how valuable it is. You as a person are the most valuable thing that a man can get. And what I think is crucially important is that men are driven to work and perform and to be, whatever. And they're basically chasing after a prize. If you want to be with somebody, don't sell yourself out. Don't give yourself away for hoping that maybe now they'll accept you or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I keep hearing that bull crap where you hear like, well, you got to test drive it, beforehand or whatever. It's like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Like, you're not. They're like, what if they're bad at it, this and that or whatever. And it's like, shut up. Like, you're not with this person for the physical side of it.
Right.
Wait, 20 years from now, that's not going to matter. Beauty, all that stuff, that goes away. Men will naturally lose a lot of their sex drive, this and that too. So it's like, they have to fall in love with who you are anyways.
Yeah.
Make them do that.
And honestly, that aspect of a relationship, you have to grow in that just like you grow in any other part of a relationship. Not to like get over into the weird side, but you have to learn to be good at that and learn one another's needs and things like that. That comes with being in a relationship. You should grow as you're married and growing together and as husband and wife. And so I think all of that comes back to the guy side, the girl side is like that identity key. Yeah. Because if you don't view yourself as valued and valuable and loved and understand what God says about you, then you will trade bits of yourself for the approval of others, and you will continue to build soul ties, unhealthy soul ties, and make it even hard to move on. Like, some people continue to build soul ties until you're so tied up with these soul ties that you don't even know how to move on to something that's healthy.
Well, let's give a couple quick notes, though, for people real fast, because I do want to cover these. These are very important. First thing that I would say is don't fall in love with potential. And we kind of covered that, but don't fall in love with potential. It's very dangerous. It's super easy for people like us to do. If you have a very soft heart, somebody told you at one point, you're so pretty, and they may see a future with you, this and that. If you fall in love with that, and that person ultimately, a couple weeks down the road's out of the cupcake phase and decides maybe this isn't it, you're going to keep looking back to this happened, this was positive, maybe I know they have this potential, this and that, but that was part of the cupcake phase that has faded. You need to just step away from that. That's one of the first things I would say. Mm-hmm. The second thing I would say is pay very, very close attention to red flags. I would say, and this is on me too, and I understand this, you do want to pay attention to what a lot of people have to say about someone. So, we're always forgiving. People can change this and that, but what in their life has changed that you can now ignore, whatever somebody may have said about them or whatever.
Right.
If somebody has a history of something,
you'll have a theme in your life.
Exactly. And if you don't see a drastic change in who they are, basically in their everyday life, but while you're being told about these things, and they probably haven't changed, it's probably a mask.
Yeah.
Pay attention to red flags, especially as the relationship develops. If you see these little things, doesn't mean hold it against them, but at the same point, you need to know exactly what you're looking for. And I would almost do like a 3-strike rule type of thing. Not literally 3 strikes, but to where you're like, these, I can't look past these things, because it usually doesn't get better. You know what I mean? And obviously you want to grow in a relationship, this and that, but most of the time you're looking at the first part of a relationship should be the easiest. So do not ignore, a lot of red flags early on. Just don't do it.
And I think having somebody that is outside of the relationship that can look at it very objectively,
which is what you are for
probably
me.
Somebody older, somebody that's walked through it, maybe, I think is really healthy to have. And then I would add to that is just understand that you are also deficient in some ways.
Yes.
Right. People with our personalities tend to dive deep into relationships quick.
Yeah.
But if we don't watch it, at least in my case, I'll just speak for myself. Growing up, I understood how manipulative I could be in relationships because I
100%
dove in so fast and I wanted it to be so successful that it's like, I'm going to put in all this time and effort in order to make you put all this time and effort.
You're going to make it work no matter what anyone else says.
Exactly. And it's like, and so I was deficient in those ways too. So the last part of that would be grow yourself.
Yes.
Grow yourself, because if you're focusing on that growth for yourself and making sure that you're healthy in all these ways that can trip you up, like what it talks about in this book, if you become healthy, you'll also be able to recognize healthy. And then you're always going to have stuff that you need to grow and work on, but you're going to be on your way to doing that yourself. And especially men, talking to them just for a moment, it's like men are called to lead their families well.
Correct. Yep.
Biblically, you might have a different kind of worldview with that, but I believe biblically that we're supposed to lead our families well. And so, already be on that journey to that type of man, and then find that way that fits in a relationship.
Well, I think, speaking to men in general, women will find it attractive that you're working on yourself constantly, because it shows that there is an effort to be better and you're not settling where you're at. They know that there's potential for more. Same goes to women. Work on yourself, because men will find it attractive that you're not just identifying yourself with them. So men are generally not as clingy as women are. I am totally the opposite. I like to be around whoever. That's just how it's been. But whatever. We're moving past that point. If you continue to work on yourself and you have other focuses outside of just your relationship, men will find that attractive, and you might find that they actually desire more time with you. And it's basically working both the same way you do. Like you said, you have to constantly be working on yourself. Right. Anything else you would want to add with that?
I would just say there is a lot of value in putting in that work, and I would say find mentors.
Yeah, for sure.
Find people that are doing it. Find the type of guys that are how you would like to be and have the relationships you would like to be. And don't be afraid to look at multiple sources. Like when I look at the people in my life that I try to reach out to, some of them have very strong marriages. So what do? I lean on them to understand strength in marriage and how they've gotten to that place. Yeah. There are other guys that are great in business. I lean on them for the business side of it. So look for those healthy relationships in your life. Don't jump into the physical side too fast. I don't think you can stress that enough, because it just clouds things up so much. And I think that, I had never even heard the word soul ties.
Same.
Until there was somebody that asked me if I had any material about soul ties before, like you and I had even discussed it.
Right.
And I'm like, is that like biblical? Like I've never even really heard it.
Right.
Came across her stuff, was like blown away by the content of it. Then this whole thing kind of come about, and really all this stuff. So like working on the soul, mind, will, and emotion side of stuff is literally all just renewing our mind, like Scripture tells us to.
Right.
lining up our lives, our way of thinking, our emotions, how we deal with stuff, the way that God's word says to, and then you come out better on the other side of that.
Well, one thing I want to do also, I want people, like, because I want another episode to be how to manage relationships, right? You know, so we want to do that. You obviously being able to explain what has worked, me so much more what hasn't worked.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna have both.
Right, but I don't have the other side.
Well, it's like 6 years. We've been married coming up on 6 years,
and I've been single.
You know, for a hot minute, and it's just one of those things. It's like you learn a lot about what works and not works,
right?
And you learn about the things in your personality, and we'll talk about this obviously the next episode or whatever. But you'll learn a lot about your personality, the stuff that you see in yourself that you also know would be better if you changed, but you just don't want to right now,
right?
And like you bring another person in to live and to partner with you and to truly partner with you, that's going to cause like friction and opportunity. I think you should look at all of it as an opportunity for growth.
Yes.
Because if you don't, then you just focus on that negative side instead of understand that we're called to a higher standard. Yes. And so getting there and understanding that there's grace to get you there. You know.
Well, a lot of people might disagree with this, and I don't really care. I'm going to say it what my personal opinion is. If you get in a relationship and one of you is toxic, you're both going to end up toxic.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people are like, well, you know, you'll help them grow. You know, iron sharpens iron, this and that. It's like usually you'll become so invested in helping somebody become something else that they ultimately end up deciding, I don't want to be that way.
Right.
And you bring that toxic nature, it becomes very hateful, whatever, etc. But
and realize that most fairy tales are bull.
Yeah,
like it doesn't
stop
happen
correlating
like
your relationship to the movies.
It's not realistic, you know. And I think that's where the danger is when we look to arts and video and culture to shape the way that we think about relationships and sex and life instead of God first. Yeah. And that's where you just get squirrely and it's like he's so clearly laid out so much for us. It's just discovering that, having conversations like this, and helping to renew our mind and orient our life to what he says, you know?
Well, let's jump into the, I guess, like the meat part of this. Like, so I went through a situation here earlier in the year. It was a breakup that the relationship wasn't very long, but I was so heavily invested in it that the soul ties were extremely strong, both from the physical side, all that. Yes, yeah, I'm guilty too. And long story short, I had to go through and learn from this book things that you had to do. First thing I would say, sever it. Kill it. If you try to keep communications with them, you try to be friends, this and that. I'm not saying that some of you can't do it, but I'm saying, like, if you find yourself like constantly in that situation where you end up waking up in their bed one day or whatever, or answering text messages late at night or whatever, this and that, the I miss you stuff or whatever, sever it, cut it off. That's the only way you're going to heal from it.
Cracked doors are as good as an open door.
Exactly. You know, like it's as easy to open. You know, I mean, if a door is already partially open or whatever, it's
might as well count it as open. You're giving yourself an opportunity to be like, well, I mean, just in case, and like you can justify it too. But cut it off.
And it may not have to be for a long time either. You know, like where you have to sever that. You know, you can ultimately come back, but you need to be honest with yourself and honest with God when that time has arrived.
And I would say especially maybe a clean cut, especially if that person along with you tends to draw out the most negative parts of you.
Exactly.
Because sometimes it is like the Bible even talks about it, like sin, like pulling out sin from us. And so I think there are people that are going to do that. It's like that whole, you know, match and gasoline comparison with relationships. Like there's just the setup there is not good. And so I think for those, man, clean cut, man, get away from it, get out of there.
So number two with that kind of correlates with it. Social media, if you have it and you follow them on it, cut it. If you have to block them, that's okay. It doesn't matter what people think of you. You know, if that person starts running your name through the dirt because of it, they're like, well, they blocked me, but I didn't block them, whatever. Who cares? You know, you're trying to heal. Focus on you. Don't worry about what people are saying. Opinions literally don't matter. It doesn't matter. Let's see. Going into the third part, this would be probably one of the bigger things I would say, because an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So constantly distract yourself with something. And I mean, and this is what I told people, it needs to be creative versus destructive. And I want to cover this for a second, if you don't mind giving me a minute or two. Creative things. I took up playing guitar. right? Learning that. Obviously, I stepped away from that, but coming back to it, obviously, I'm going to. But that was a very good distraction for me. Diving into Scripture more. These things, working on my praise and worship. If I was like finding myself in a situation, I'm sitting at home and my mind's running towards that, where it's like, okay, no, I'm like starting to get those feelings again, or whatever. I crank up the praise and worship music and I'm sitting there having a praise and worship service in my room by myself. You need to find those creative ways. Don't do anything destructive. When it comes to the destructive side, you're going out with your friends, drinking alcohol or whatever. And like, I understand like that happens, especially around our age, like that's the thing they want to go to, is it's like, can I smoke pot? Can I, go drink or whatever, this and that, because they want to numb the feelings. They don't want to hurt anymore.
You're feeling a void.
Right. Yeah. Well, what they don't realize is, and this is how I described it because this has been my experience with it, numbing it off is just pausing it. You are not objecting yourself to being forced to face the subject at hand.
Yeah.
So if you go out and you drink or whatever, this and that, like you're just literally delaying it. You're going to wake up the next day, you're going to be in the same spot you were before you started drinking. Like you're going to be back in that moment. And usually the way I would see it is you want to spend your weekends, like I want everyone to know it's okay to hurt. It's okay to cry. It's okay to go through all that. Like it is okay to be lost in that moment.
Have the courage to confront really what you're feeling and going through.
Stop using, if you go out with your friends and party or whatever, this and that, just make sure, and I'm not condoning that or anything, but I'm saying if you're doing it, make sure that the reason you're doing it is not because you're trying to get over something. It's not going to work. Honestly, you'll probably end up in another situation for more soul ties, especially in the hookup culture we live in now.
Yeah, and I mean, this is nothing new.
Right.
Numbing our issues and not dealing with the things in ourselves in a healthy way has been around forever.
Yeah.
And we almost glorify it in media and things like that.
Yeah.
This whole understanding of like, well, let's just go fill it with this.
Yeah.
But have the courage to confront it in yourself and work through it. I would say with God, allow God to help you work through it.
Well, another thing that I want to bring up. So number 4, find somebody that you can talk to about it. Mm-hmm. That I would say is not family, as in, like your dad or your mom, whatever. And you want to have those, but I'm saying have somebody that you can pour into. So for me, that was you, and I was almost here every day during the week or whatever talking to you. And it was just, I needed somebody I could pour into because you were giving me truth, but with grace, you know. So I could hear from somebody else. I had a guy at work that told me to get the F over it, So I'm like... Okay, and I was like, dang, I may have needed to hear it that way as well, but like you were giving it to me in a way where it was like, I can grow from this. Right. I can, like you were giving me applications to use versus just, get over it.
Well, and I would say too, if you get somebody that's removed from the situation enough, they can deal with both parties involved in it with grace.
Yes.
I think that's very important to understand that like, just because the relationship between two people was not good doesn't mean that the two people involved with it aren't loved by God.
Right, exactly.
Have a plan for their life from God. Yep. And so if you get people that are kind of on everybody's team talking to you about it, you're going to end up running somebody in the dirt and somebody gets elevated in the situation. Yeah. But when you understand that like we're both people raised certain ways with issues of our own, and you have somebody that can help walk you through it with both parties, with grace. Like, you get the advice of like, dude, just blast them on social media, man. Yeah. Just tell everybody what you know about them. Like,
share those pictures. Whatever. You're just
dude, like, it's ridiculous. And so in order to make ourselves feel better about our deficiencies in the relationship, we belittle that person. So I would say have somebody that's removed enough from the situation to be able to deal with both parties with grace.
I had a revelation here recently, and I posted it as a Facebook status. I know that some people that probably follow me may have saw it. Basically, what it was is I realized anytime God has created you for someone specific, and that's the case every time. So, if you end up trying to rush what God has timing for, and you get in a different relationship, this and that, and it's not the person you're meant to be with, then ultimately it's going to fall apart because that God hasn't blessed it. It's going to fall apart, and then you're going to find each other to be toxic. And the reality is like now you think negative of somebody, but you wouldn't have if you just wouldn't have tried to have forced a relationship out of just a small interest or whatever, this and that. So really just remembering that sometimes people aren't actually toxic. It was the fact that you two weren't meant to be together, and this was just, you didn't have the blessing on it. So be okay with that. Stop worrying about it. Don't overthink it. God's not telling you you'll never be happy, none of that. But you will find that person. It's just you have to trust God's timing more than your own, especially for people my age. Like the most successful marriages actually start from 28 on. The divorce rate is so high because of people getting married early, like rushing into it. Don't feel like you have to do things on the world's time. That's the stealer of joy is comparison, So just stop looking at that and focus on the fact that, your time's coming. God is not robbing you of anything. If he's making you wait for it, odds are it's better than what most people are getting now. So just that would be my advice, at least with that in particular.
And I would say just learn how to deal with conflict. Because as
hold your tongue, please.
As people, we get entangled in each other's lives. It's just what we happen. Friendships, relationships, whatever it is. Like you're gonna get involved in each other's lives, and conflict is gonna happen. So just learn how to deal with conflict in a healthy way. And because some people think that the absence of conflict means that it's a healthy relationship. The lack of conflict means that somebody ain't voicing their opinion.
Somebody
because
says something.
We're raised different. Our personality is different. You're gonna have conflict in a relationship. So learn how to deal with it. Learn how to deal with it in a mature way, because it's vital, and it will mess you up in life if you just continue to ignore things and not deal with them and stuff through life. Like just a lot of opportunity there for hurt. And so you're gonna have those opportunities. So just deal with it. Learn how to deal with it.
Well, I would tell people, take these notes that we've talked about. You want to step away from that stuff. I think the big thing is that just toss the idea that in this moment you have to talk to them, that you can be friends. I'm not saying long term you can't, but step away from it, sever it, clean cut, and give it time. And definitely just try to avoid, especially talking about memories. Because if you live in the moment still, that's going to be what the problem is.
And you'll just continue to kind of be pulled back into it.
Exactly.
And I would say fill that time with something godly. You mentioned worship music and things like that.
I was learning guitar, hopefully for praise and worship, reading scripture.
Lean into the fact that not only did he make you, but he knows the numbers of hairs on your head. He knows you better than you know yourself.
Exactly.
Lean into him. And spend those times when you're by yourself, not in a relationship, not engaged in someone else's life, to grow. To grow.
Definitely. You got anything else you want to add?
No, man. That was an awesome conversation. I loved it. I think that's huge. I think it's just important in the day and age that we live in, that we understand it, because we live in a Disney world. Like our age group was raised by Disney movies, and life and relationships, as you will quickly find out,
happily ever after does not usually mean constant happiness for the rest of your life. It doesn't work.
It's
like
hard
that.
work and it's exciting, but it takes development to get there, to be that type of person that's worth being in a relationship with for yourself anyway.
Exactly. Well, do yourself a favor, get the book. That's what I did. Untangle is what it's called. If I said untangled, I'm sorry. It's Terry Savelle Foy, Break Wrong Soul Ties and Pursue Your Purpose. She went through a lot of stuff herself. She covers it. She does a great job of it. It's a super quick read. The pages are not big at all. I mean, you see that.
And there's a lot of like takeaways and kind of like quotes that you can meditate on throughout the book, of just these ideas that God showed her really through scripture and stuff, and the stuff that she was walking through. So
exactly. Cool. Well, we'll cover how to deal with relationships in another episode. I know I'm excited to do one on dream building too. So for those of you entrepreneur people out there or whatever, that you're like excited, or you're doing a project that you want God to bless or this and that, we got a good episode coming up for that. I'm trying to decide a good time frame for it, but definitely on that. And we'll try to get Dad on more episodes, more guests and stuff, because I think it'd be more exciting to have more people on the show. I've had people messaging me about joining the Life to the Full team. I was telling my buddy the other day, I'm like, I'm going to start calling it the Full Squad. You know what I mean? Like, if you partner with us in one way, whether you buy a shirt, you share, whatever, this and that, you're part of the Full Squad. And it's just, I think it's exciting. So, I mean, if you feel like you can do something, or you feel like you want to partner with us or whatever, or however you want to do it, shoot me a message or shoot Cody a message, whoever, it doesn't matter. Probably long term, you'll end up talking to me because I like to cover that stuff. That's something I like to do. That I like to be like, okay, well, let's figure out what your calling is.
Right.
I want to help you do that. I got a long term vision, which I'm going to discuss, talk about more in that dream building episode or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so definitely shoot us a message. Like, share, subscribe. I feel like this is just, I'm repeating myself at this point, but it's no effort. Shoot the like button, share it, tell your friends about us. We got the merch still. As you can see, I'm repping the maroon shirt today. The hoodies are blowing up. Awesome. That is what's crazy. So I was like, I actually been sitting in Subway and people are just like, oh, when you gonna get me one of those hoodies? This and that. I'm like, oh, you didn't tell me you wanted one until now. They're like, absolutely. I'm like, well, which color you want, what size, blah, blah, blah. Right now we're doing light pink, light blue. Hit me up for those or whatever. Cause
we're going with the pastels.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, it's like it stands out.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I liked that until a buddy of mine was wearing them. But so hit us up for that. The shirts are still for sale. I think the hoodies will do $35. The shirts are $25, and then your tumblers are $20. Again, this is going to great causes, especially now that we have somebody as part of the full squad that is excited to kind of coordinate some of those things. So the 10% obviously going to, I want to personally give 10% to Family Worship Center or whatever, because it's just helped me greatly and tremendously. But I'm taking, a larger cut of that also kind of towards this type of thing, whatever, or opening up donations, like allowing these things to happen. I'm going to get her on an episode. I was telling her about this to kind of explain that a little better, but she's super excited. We got off the phone and she was just posting a ton of stuff. Like, she sent me a ton of pictures of like things she wanted to do, this and that. And I'm like, I'm glad you're fired up, because that fires me up. When another person is, that gets me going. Sure. So yeah, like I said, like, share, subscribe. It's not that difficult. Our YouTube channel needs more subscribers. Hit that up.
Yeah.
So, our Facebook page is doing pretty well. I thought, I sent out the invites or whatever, and it responded really well. So we just we want to get the YouTube channel flowing as well, because we would like to eventually make it on that recommended list. It's doing great to get the word out, and we're excited about that. I don't really have anything else to say.
I'm good, man.
All right,
good conversation.
Sweet deal. Well, we're glad to have you back on, obviously. Co-host here, and it was like, dang, I love having Dad on here, and I hope he gets on, a lot more frequently.
Yeah.
I was like, but dang, man, I'm missing Cody's insight on some of this stuff, because me and Dad are so the same. I'm running off his thoughts here. I'm not even getting to say anything because he's taking everything.
Right. Yeah.
But thanks for watching, guys. This has been episode 11 on Soul Ties.
See ya.
Awesome. Hey guys, like we said, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I know it's on there. I threw it somewhere on this page. I don't know where it is. You can obviously see that there's links to the other videos. I don't know where I put them.
That
somewhere on here,
maybe.
Hoping that we'll figure it out. If I have to mirror it, I'll mirror it. We'll do something like that. But just click one of these videos. It's not hard. Whatever. Hit the like button. Subscribe.
It's not illegal to listen to more than one at a time.
That's what I'm saying. If you want to, play them fast. Whatever you got to do, just get it going. Yeah.
Play them while your kids sleep.
Dude. Boom.